Hello, artists! It's Kelly Folsom here. Welcome back to the Art Life Conversations podcast, where we talk about all things related to the art life. Okay, we are in lucky episode number 13. Yay! Yay, yay, yay. All right, this episode, I wanted to talk about a topic that this has really bothered me for a long time. And it is the art education gap. So the gap in art education. So those of you who may not know me, I decided to enroll in art college back in 2007. I was 28 years old and finally had decided to answer this calling inside of myself to become an artist. And all I knew was that this was the calling that I had inside of myself, and that I always loved creating. And also, I never could really commit to any other path of education, even though I was, an A+ student and I loved school. But the thought of choosing a degree or in something, I never could find anything to land on that really connected with me. For a short time, I thought about getting an architecture degree because it was one of the only few kind of artistic things related to, drawing. I thought, well, maybe I'll get to draw some, In the college, for those of you who don't know me, I grew up in a very small town in Amarillo, outside of Amarillo, Texas, and in Amarillo for a good number of years too. And then we moved to a very rural community in southeastern Oklahoma, Wilburton, Oklahoma. Have you ever heard of it? But there was a junior college there that I could have gone to. I didn't have any money to go to college, and neither did my parents whenever I was fresh out of high school. And so I just could never land on anything. And then, of course, I ended up getting married at a young age and just that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to get married, supposed to have a family, all this kind of stuff. And let me tell you what, not even 6 years, probably just a few years after, I was absolutely miserable. And it was really because I was not doing anything that I was put on this planet to do. And I was just trying to fit into, the society and culture that was around me and into the mold that I thought I was supposed to fit into. And I also just didn't even know that you could really be an artist. So somehow along the way, I ended up figuring out there's such a thing called art school. And I finally decided I'm going to go do this, right? And so I go to art school, and of course, all of the emphasis is on developing your skill, technical skill. This was all the emphasis, and rightfully so. When you're first learning about art, that is the biggest thing that you are learning is how to make art, how to get better at making it, how to improve your technical skill, learning about composition, understanding the language of art making and design, right? So rightfully so, in the beginning, there should be a very heavy focus on this aspect of the art life. However, what I found was this was pretty much the only focus all through the 4 years of art school. And, I almost didn't even make it through the first year of art school. Well, that's being a little dramatic, but but art school is very hard on me, especially the first year, because I sucked. I was I suck, I'm no good at this. And I wasn't really seeing a lot of progress that I would like to see. Meanwhile, I invested $20,000 for the year in art school. I was going into debt to do this. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, I've made the wrong decision here. I don't think I'm capable of doing this. I see that a lot of other people are capable of doing this, but I don't feel like I am. And so even that part of it, I remember, trying to reach out, trying to get help, trying to get advice from the faculty members. And, most of the time they would just give these really lazy, half-assed answers, which basically meant like, I don't really care and stop bothering me, So they would mostly just give answers like, well, you just got to keep practicing. You got to keep practicing, which is just like this kind of textbook answer, I know, my boyfriend before has spoken to spoke to a professional artist one time about some struggles he was having in his art making, and her response to him was, well, you need to get a teacher. So again, most of the focus, and not that she was wrong necessarily, but it's like these half-ass, lazy, I don't really care because I really don't want to help you to do this kind of responses, and people can feel that. People can feel that energy. They can pick up on the fact that you really don't care, and you're just kind of whipping out a response to get on with your day. Like you've got your shit to do, and so you don't really have time to really mentor a young artist coming up. And I think there's a big difference between somebody who is a teacher, somebody who's teaching technique, and a mentor. There is a huge difference between those two. And there's also a difference even between a mentor and a coach, and I feel like a lot of artists who are trying to make art, trying to make this art life thing happen for themselves, we really need those three things. We need somebody to teach us technique. We also need a mentor, somebody who can kind of give us advice. And kind of, they've already been in your shoes before, and they have like this wisdom, and they can kind of pass some of that wisdom on. They can pass that wisdom on to you, in a very ego-less way. That was the other thing I always found with like teachers at the art college, and even teachers I took workshops with while I was in art college and also after art college, is that many of them they're mentoring and teaching a lot of times out of ego. Like all of the students are really there to serve their ego, and it freaking sucks. So this is something that's just always bugged me. It's always bothered me. And so I guess it's at least the beauty of going through this for me, coming out the other side, is because it's always bothered me. I really want to show up differently. I really want to be that teacher, mentor, and coach that is coming from a place of, love and out of as little ego as I possibly can. And I'm human. I'm not perfect. Yes, I have ego. Yes, sometimes I react out of that ego and things like that, but it's something that I work on every freaking day of my life. Again, because my vision and my want is so I'm so connected to being able to help women artists, really be fulfilled and come into their full confidence, strength, power, thriving in all ways, and thriving financially and being abundant as artists. And so in order to do that, it's not about me, it's not about the ego. So, and these are all things that I just find lacking so much in the art world. So this is some of the education gap that exists right now in art education, both on the college level or like in places that offer workshops. It's really difficult to get like a well-rounded mentoring and help. So even at a 4-year small college system, it's difficult to get that. Most of the instructors that were at the college were, they're collecting a paycheck. Some of them cared a little bit more than others. I don't want to say that none of them cared. But really it's like, they're showing up, they're doing their job, they're getting their paycheck. Also, like, ugly stuff, like they're so competitive with one another. They didn't even really support each other very much half the time, let alone the students. And so it was really like not a very healthy place to grow up as an artist, so to speak. So other things, of course, that we're missing in the art education gap, because there's so much focus on technique, were things, of course, like, how to learn how to market yourself, the art business side of things. All of this stuff was missing. And all the focus was on, just get good at what you do. Just get good at what you do. As if that was like the secret key, the magical ingredient. Like if you just get damn good at your artwork, you will not ever have to worry about making money as an artist. Surprise, that's not true. Surprise. But this is really the messaging that was running rampant in the art college. And of course, I mentioned this a few podcasts back on the stigma with selling, that it's still running rampant even among artists, like build it and they will come. Just like, what's that quote? I used to love that quote too. It was like, get so good that they can't ignore you. I can't remember who said that quote, but it's like, get so damn good that they can't ignore you. Well, my friends, you can actually be quite excellent and reach even a mastery level in your artwork. And guess what? People can still ignore you, and other artists can ignore you, and the galleries can ignore you, and the shows can ignore you, collectors can ignore you, unless you give them a reason not to ignore you. And it's not a good enough reason to just get good at your art. So I find that, and I've been teaching ever since 2011 in person classes and workshops, and then also started teaching online almost 4 years ago now online. And so one of my deepest wants and desires is to be able to provide a very well-rounded learning experience, a way to be able to help artists with every avenue of the art life. And I feel like in some ways I've been quite blessed in being given this desire, and also being given the drive to want to do that, the tools to want to do that. And of course, I'm always developing those skills and tools better in my art business, and also learning better how to advise artists, mentor them, without ego, help them get better at goal setting, project planning, time management, get better at the coaching aspect. I didn't even talk about the coaching aspect, but even a coach is different than a mentor. A coach is really there to help you to both tweak technique, as well as to help you like in your habits and staying more accountable to your wants and your desires and your goals. And a coach will, coach you along the path, coach you along the way, like, hey, you're slipping there, you're falling down there, what's going on. And a coach isn't there just to, like a drill sergeant, yell at you and tell you what to do, but really to get you to really think for yourself, by asking you really good questions that get you to solve your own problems. So a good coach, a good mentor should really be giving you the tools and the skills that you need to be able to stand on your own 2 feet, stand on your own 2 feet and fly away, when you get enough experience, enough skills and tools and confidence underneath your belt, so that you can stand on your own 2 feet and make your own, dharma happen in this life, right? So, and I feel like everybody needs that. Now, sometimes we can find it through multiple people also. Like I have supplemented my art education, because my art education solely focused on building that technique. which at a certain point, not to say that you ever stop learning or you ever stop getting better, but at a certain point, you need to bring other skills up so that you can really fully thrive, So back for me, let's say back in 2017, I was at this point where I had really, hammered down and I had gotten my technique and my understanding to a high level. Now, there was still room for improvement, but in terms of having like a fully fulfilled, well-rounded, thriving art life, there was other aspects of, this art life that I needed to bring up to that level, if that makes sense. So I needed to learn more about art business. I needed to learn how to, coach myself better, how to manage my own time better, how to plan better. I was, of course, I was never a great planner. I've always been more of like an impulsive, kind of person. And, and over the last few years, I've gotten really obsessed with like, no, create the future that you want, create the life that you want, and then plan for it and go after it and get it. Like make those plans. Like the more you can think through those plans and plan ahead and think ahead, the better off you're going to be in terms of actually achieving those goals and having that success. So at a certain point, I started supplementing my art education because so many of these things were lacking in the art school system. And some things I was more naturally gifted at or more naturally good at, and I'm very thankful for that. I had some, I don't even know that I would say I was naturally good at it, but for example, before art school, I had worked for an interior designer, and I had gotten some skills in selling. I had learned quite a few lessons just by trial and error, customers coming into the shop and trial and error, trying to help them and sell them a product and fill their needs. And I learned, of course, I had a lot of failures in that. I had a lot of people who ended up walking away. And so then I would kind of analyze afterwards, like, well, why wasn't I able to help them? Why wasn't I able to sell them? So I had learned some skills in that regard before even art school that was helpful, but it only took me so far, So I was only able to, that skill set was so minimal and so raw, I was only able to use it to such a minimal degree, really. So that I had to learn, like, well, how can I get better at selling? What's the psychology of sales that I don't understand in order to sell my own artwork? How do I even go about doing that in today's day and time? How do I sell online? How do I get people's attention online with my art and, anything that I'm offering? Like, how do I get them to stop and pay attention and make a decision? And then how do I get better at writing my emails, writing my social media posts, so that people don't just, ignore it, so that people don't just scroll past it, and move on. How do I get better at goal setting? How do I even know what goals to set, what projects to pursue, which projects are or tasks are going to be more impactful? And so I've spent an additional, I would say, well, at this point, it's probably another $30,000 in learning how to do these sorts of things, and a lot of it too is just experience and trial and error. A lot of it you can also study things for free. I just always find every time that I work with a coach or a mentor or take a specific class on something, I always find I get more out of it than just like random researching on YouTube or Google or something like that. And I've done plenty of that as well. But I always find that I'm better off whenever I have somebody that I can ask questions to, get feedback feedback from, like actually write an email and then submit the email to get feedback from them on, is it too wordy? Are people going to pay attention to this? Is it hideous? Even simple things like I remember learning about like, oh, well, I wrote this whole email about my new paintings, but I didn't even have a way for them to click and view the paintings. So the email was really not serving much of a purpose in terms of trying to convert people who were reading the email who might be actually interested in buying the painting. But I was leaving out the one critical thing of like, here's the button to click, and buy the painting. So even things like that, like your blind spots that you don't know what you don't know, and so just not having those blind spots, but then not having anybody around who can kind of point them out and help you out with that. And so I find that for me to really be a huge secret to my success, not even a secret, obviously, but just, investing in that kind of mentorship and coaching and teaching in art business instruction that goes beyond technique. So that being said, because this was something that was such a desert, for me, it was such a missing link. It was such a missing part of my art education. It's always really, really bothered me. Even down to, like I said, like just feeling like that teacher even cares and really wants to mentor me on my own work. Instead of just giving me kind of like a meaningless critique, like they're just like, I really wanted them to like try to really help me, to really meet me where I was, really try to explain things instead of like, oh, well, this color over here is too bright, and this over here is too dark or too light. That's all fine. That it's helpful information, but it's just that it's more information. It's just more information, and I think, until we can turn information into a true practical application and understanding, it's really kind of meaningless. So, excuse me, that is my objective whenever I am working with my mentees and the mastermind mentorship, is to really be able to help them on all these avenues. So we do work on technique. We do, anybody especially who is more at a beginner stage, I really try to help them, make sure that they know like, hey, you need to be focusing mostly on technique right now just because of what stage you're at. And then, you can work from there more into the sales and the art business and all that kind of stuff. So this is really what I aim to do in my mastermind mentorship, is to really help artists with all avenues. So every month I do we have a critique. I also do either a technique demonstration or a lecture teaching on technique, whether that's composition, color mixing, or just a full, painting demonstration to help the artists who are in there. We do an independent painting critique once a month, and that, like I said, when I critique, I try to give people so much more than just this is too dark, that's too light. I try to explain like, here's what's happening, here's why that's not working, so that they walk away with some true understanding to be able to apply it, universally to the rest of their paintings and not just fix that one painting. Because again, if you don't walk away with more of a universal understanding of the fundamentals, then the problem is maybe while you have my help, you understand how to fix that one painting, or you can go fix that one painting, but then what about the next painting that you don't have my help on, or 5 years from now, And so really my critiques are geared towards helping people become more independent and more critical in their artistic thinking skills. And then, of course, I do a business teaching once a month as well. So any business questions, career advice, all that kind of stuff, gets dealt with once a month as well. And then we have a live once a month coaching call with myself. And this is really where that mentoring and coaching, problem solving really happens live and in the moment. And we work through blocks and blind spots that you may be having. So I love doing this. The mastermind mentorship is just something that's so near and dear to my heart. And when I opened it last year, the artists that joined, especially those who really knuckled down and really participated, they have seen, and they've stayed in the whole year, which I want everybody to do. It's a year-long program, but they've stayed in the whole year and they have seen so much growth and transformation. It is mind-blowing. I mean, to look at some of these women who came in the first week and their confidence was really kind of in the toilet, but they did have some faith and hope that they could grow and they could get better, and they trusted me, to be their coach and their guide and their mentor along the path, and to see like how much they've turned around in the last year, how much they've grown in every single area. It is nothing short of amazing. It's like a beautiful, freaking gorgeous butterfly that's like, oh my gosh, you're like a totally different artist now. It is incredible. It's incredible. They're not as afraid anymore to do things, to put their work out there, to really go for it. Obviously, even myself, you're always still going to have some struggles there perhaps remaining, or some blind spots here and there, but it's been nothing short of amazing watching them grow and develop. So masterminders, if you're listening to this podcast, I'm so freaking proud of you women. You guys are warrior women, and I'm just so honored that you allowed me to be a part of your art life journey in that intimate of a way. So that being said, I am opening the mastermind again. So just for those of you who have gotten to know me, perhaps you're signed up for my classes, Vital Art Sessions, or just getting to know me via this podcast, or maybe you've taken the Double Your Painting Sales course or the Finding Your Artistic Voice course. This mastermind mentorship is 10 times, I would say actually like 100 times any of those other courses and classes or programs that you've taken from me, because it's such a deeper, more intimate experience, and you really get that customized mentorship and coaching that you need to fully really get to your goals. So to really have that help to push to that goal. So I kind of envision it as like I literally take you by the hand. We all hold hands together and walk on this path for a year together, dealing with all of the ups and downs, navigating through those situations, helping you to bounce back more quickly, get back on the horse, and of course, so much built-in accountability into the program. It wouldn't be a coaching program if there was no accountability. So every week we have accountability posts. The masterminders have a couple of calls just with themselves to help each other and share resources, and it's freaking phenomenal. So what happens just in their mastermind calls without me, so they get that accountability there as well with one another, and also just sharing more ideas. All right, artists. So that is my talk on the art education, the gap in art education, and sharing with you more of like my vision. This is really part of why I feel I am on this planet, and my dharma, my path to follow is to be this person, at least right now, this time in my life, and I'm loving every minute of it. And so if you are looking for to fill in that gap in your art education, and you like my style, or you think that, I might be the right coach or mentor for you, definitely go over to artlifewithkelly.com, or you can email in at info@artlifewithkelly.com and ask for more information or ask any questions about it that you might have. All the information there, the pricing, everything that you get, and all of that is on the website as well. So you can go check that out first just to learn more about it. And that might answer some initial questions that you have. So again, it's Kelli, not Y, but all right, everybody, artists, keep up the fantastic work. And I'm wishing you all happy painting, and I'll talk to you next time.